Hey guys, so in this video we are going to learn about JavaScript generator functions. So what is a JavaScript generator function? It's think of a Netflix show. You can pause it anytime and do something else and then come back and continue the show. When you continue it, it picks from where you left off, right? So same like that, a generator function can also pause and continue as many times as you want. In between this pause and continue, your program can do something else. So let's see it in action. So I'm going to go to the documentation. So this is the basic example for generator functions. Now as you can see it, let me zoom it. And now this is what the generator functions looks like. Here, as you can see, remember I told you that usually a Netflix show we can pause it and continue. So same like that, here we have this special kind of function, and to pause this function we use this yield keyword, and to continue we use this next function. So here we have this generator function. We are pausing this function 2 times. So this is the first time we are going to pause it, and this is the second time. So as you can see, we call generator function just like any other normal function. The difference is, just because I call this, it's not going to execute anything in this body. So to start the execution, we have to call this next method. So this is like in Netflix, for example, if you start to watch a new TV series for the first time, or a movie, the player is going to automatically start it, right? But in generator functions, just because we call the generator function, it's not going to start execution automatically. So we have to call it manually using this next method. And also for the continue, we also have to call the next method. Perfect. Now if I run this, it prints me 10 and 20. So what's happening? First, we call generator.gen.next and we get the value. And that's prints the number 10 because the input of generator function is 10. So we yield the input I. And the next, once we continue, it's also again going to stop in the second yield command, and it's print 20 because we add 10 to the input. In this case, input is going to 10, or so 10 plus 10 is going to be 20. So the thing is, I can do something else in between here. Right. So now if I run this, you can see something else is in between. Perfect. So now also we can iterate through these generator functions. So if I use a for loop here for gen of I can say item of gen. If I do this and if I console log item here, and I'm going to remove this part. Now it is still print 10 and 20, but note that this time we don't have to call next because the iterator is automatically, this iteration is automatically going to call next on each iterations. All right. So now to understand this better, let's build something. So we are going to create a MJPEG decoder using generator functions. Now here I have this basic HTML file and the script.js link to the HTML file. Perfect. So let's start to create our generator function. So we are going to have a async function, obviously, because we are going to send a network request decoder. Just like that. And for streaming, we need a URL to get the stream. And let's send the request using the fetch. Like this. And then I can get the reader out of the response body, get reader, right? And then I'm going to create a while loop, true, while true. This is going to be every time it is going to be true. And let's read it. So I'm going to say await reader.read. So it's going to read stream data from our server, and which return this value and the flag done. So in case if the stream is ended or completed, then the done is going to be true. In that case, there's no point of running this further. So let's break the while loop. And if we do have data, then I can get the video data, and let's add it into a unit 8 array, and the length of this data, right? So what we are going to do, we are going to keep a variable called partial data, and let's initialize it with uint8 array with 0 length, right? Okay, now what I'm going to do, here we are going to append this data to this partial data. So let's do that. So first thing I'm going to do, video data, I need to get the length. I'm going to say partial data dot length plus the new length of the newly received data length, right? And then I can say video data dot set. I'm going to set the data. I'm going to set the partial data, which is the existing data, from the index 0, and then I'm going to say video data dot set. I'm going to set the new data from the index of partial data dot length, right? And then let's reassign the partial data with the video data. So what we have done here, so we are going to have this variable with no data. So it start to read from the stream, and it appends data to the partial data. So the first time partial data is empty, so the length is going to be empty, and this time we are receiving part of the video data in the value from the server, and we are getting the length of that value. So we initialize video data with that length, and then we add those data to this item, right? And then we assign this to the partial data. Okay, and then what we do, this while loop is going to run, and then the while loop is going to again call the reader read. This time it's also going to get next piece of the video data, and then we are going to get here, if you check, we create a new uint array, partial data length and the value length. So it's basically is going to be, this is the current length of the partial data, it's the same as this one, and then we are going to add room for the latest data from the server, and then we are going to assign the existing data from the index 0, which is here index 0. So it's going to fill this part, and then we are going to set the new data from the partial data dot length, which is here the index from here, right? So likewise it's going to add piece of video data to our partial data variable, right? Okay, so the next part is how to get the frame data. So basically what we are going to do, I'm going to go back here. Now remember I told you that we are going to add data like this. Now at some point of time we are going to receive some piece of data in this stream. I'm going to mark it as red like this. It's something else, it's not a video data, it is we call it a delimiter. So what we are going to do, we are going to append this data, and we are going to check if we can find this delimiter in the data. If we find this delimiter, that means that's the end of that frame. So basically this part belongs to the one frame. Any data that we receive after this delimiter data is going to be the part of the new frame, right? So we are going to start again, we are going to fill, and at some point of time we are going to see that delimiter again here. So that means this is going to be the data for the next frame, right? So we can read the frame data likewise. So let's go here. So what's this delimiter? It's going to be, I'm going to use text encoder and encode, and you can use whatever text here. And just I'm going to use something like this. I'm going to say frame RN. So this is going to be the pattern of my delimiter. And then here we can say frame start index 0. I'm going to start from 0, and frame end index is going to be the what here, right? So that's going to be the frame end index. So we have to find this piece of data within our uint8 array. So to find that, I'm going to use an algorithm we call it KNP algorithm. So let's use that. So I'm not going to write it, I'm just going to copy it. And here, this is the KNP algorithm. With the KNP algorithm, I can find the index of a sub array. So we provide the main array and the sub array. So the function will return the index of the sub array within the main array, right? So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to say that index of sub array, and I'm providing the main array. Main array is going to be the partial data, and the sub array is going to be the delimiter. So then I can say while frame end index is not equal to negative minus, then which mean we do have the this piece of data in our partial data. So that means we have a frame data. I'm going to get the frame data using partial data subarray. So I'm going to get frame start index to frame end index. So here we have the frame data. Now then I can yield from here frame data. Right, then we are going to pause this here and let the main application to do something with this frame data. What we are going to do, we will later implement a code that will draw this frame data as an image element on the DOM, right? So once we have done that, that code will continue just like we continue the Netflix show. So once the program start to continue again, I'm going to say frame start index is going to be, so now what is going to be the frame start index? It's going to be this length, which is the frame, here it's the frame end index plus the length of the delimiter. So here I can say frame end index plus the length of delimiter, and again frame end index again with like this. And then let's update the partial data because we don't need the processed data. I'm going to remove the processed part. So I'm just going to say frame start index. Right. Now we have the decoder code logic, and let's use that. So to use that, I'm going to using wrapper, and then say can create the decoder. Now we have to pass some kind of URL here, and then we can say for await const frame of decoder, and here we can access the frame data because this is going to iterate the generator function. So each time it's going to pause in this yield, return that to the body here, and we can do something, and the iterator is going to call the next, which will continue the decoder method again. So here we can do something. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to create a function draw image. Here I'm going to get the data and we can just create a blob from the data, and I'm going to say the type is going to be image JPEG, and the image reference I'm going to get document get element by ID. Let's do add image tag, and the ID is going to be image, right? And let's add some width as well. It is going to be 1008 or 500, right? And now we have the reference to the image. So let's create a reader, new file reader, and then I'm going to say when reader on load, let's get the data URL reader.result, and then we can append the data URL as the source of the image, and let's read it, read as array buffer from the blob, right? Now I can call draw image here with the frame data. Now this should work. However, we don't have a way to test. We need an mjpeg stream, so let's create a server, a sample server. So I'm going to go into the server and init it as a npm project, and let's install Express, and let's create a file server.js, right? Now here I'm going to import Express, require from Express, and then I can create the app from Express, right? To get the stream, let's create a path get stream, and here we will run the logic to return the mjpeg stream, and let's run our server in port 5000 maybe. Right now to stream we need a sample video, and I have downloaded one. So this is the video that we are going to use. It's a sample video. So here I do have this sample.mp4, right? Right now I have to get the frames of this video and save them as JPEG, so we can stream that to the client. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use ffmpeg, and first thing I need to check the frame rate of this video. So I'm going to say select streams is 0 and show entries stream frame rate. Video is going to be sample.mp4. Select the streams. What's going on here? Oh, sorry, this is going to be, we need to use ffprop. The frame rate is 30. Okay, so I can use ffmpeg to get the, so I'm going to say fps is going to be 30, and then can get the, I'm going to put the frame data frame as JPEG, right? And it's done. We have the frame data, right? Now all we have to do is save this frame data. Oh, sorry, it is, I have to move this to a folder. Let's move it to a folder. I'm going to call it media. Now I'm going to go back to the server.js. Here we can write. So I can get the frame directory. I'm going to use the path library. Path require from path. And then here I can say path.resolve directory name, and the folder name is media. Right. So this is the frame directory. And the frames, we can get the frames using fs package. So let's import that. Require fs, and I can say fs read directory sync frame directory. So here we will have the array of data, and let's write the headers for the response for the stream. So I need 200, and these are going to be the headers. So let me copy this. So these are going to be the headers. Okay. Right. And then note that is I need to have this content type multipart thing. Okay. And then I'm going to create a function. Process frame. So remember, we have the frame data in an array. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to accept index as an argument, and then I'm going to check whether if index is greater than the frames dot length, then I can end the stream. So I'm going to say rest.end and return from the function. If not that the case, then I can get the frame file path using path.join frame directory and frames index. And then here I'm going to say frame stream frame data fs create read stream to the file path. Right. And then here I can just say frame stream or frame data, and I'm going to pipe the response to there and end false. And then I'm going to say frames on end if the data is going to end, and then I'm going to say set timeout, and then let's use the FPS 30 FPS for each 30 with the FPS. I'm going to say send. I'm going to call the process frame again with the next index, which is with the next frame, right? And now what I need to do here, if index is not equal to 0, then I need to add whenever the process frame called, I need to add something to the response, which is going to be the delimiter. So I'm going to say rest.write new text encoder dot encode, and I'm going to copy the delimiter pattern from here. This is going to be the delimiter, so let's add it. Right, now we can identify the frames like this using this index of subarray. Right, now that's it, and I'm going to call this initially with process frame 0. Right, now this should work. So let's run this server. To run, I can say node server.js. Server is working, and then I'm going to use live server to open the index.html. Right, so we have to update the URL. So it's going to run on the 5000. So I'm going to say http localhost 5000 and the path is going to be stream. Perfect. Now if we load this site, we are getting an error, access control. It is an cause issue, so we need to install. So I'm going to go and open a new terminal and add npm install cause -. Alright, then let's import the cause library. Let's just simply allow cause for any client. That's it. And now let's restart the server. And now if I reload, and something is happening but it's not working. Why is that? If you check this line in the while loop, we have another while loop. Now here what we do, we check the index of the delimiter, but then here inside the while loop we check whether it's not negative minus 1, so whether it's not -1, and then after we yield the frame data. Now what could be the problem here? If you check this while loop, here after we yield the frame data, we update the frame start index and end index. So if you take if you look closely here, this is causing an infinite loop. So why is that? So if we go to this whiteboard here, so this is what our partial data looks like, right? So this is what, and initially here we called index of sub array, and we found the frame end index, which is in here, right? So in here, but then again within the while loop we are calling index of sub array again with partial data and delimiter. So this time also it's going to point to this, right? So frame index is again going to be this same value. So this loop is never going to end. You see frame index, so it's again frame index is going to be the same one, and then while loop runs again and runs again, and it's not going to end because the frame end index is never going to -1. So to fix that, what we need to do, once we yield the frame data, we have to remove that frame data from the partial data. So we don't need this part and we can remove this one, right? So our partial data is going to contain data from here only, right? So we technically do that, but we are too late doing that. So let's we have to put that in here. So now what happened, once we yield the data, we update the partial data by removing the processed frame data. And now again we check the index of delimiter. So in that case, if there's a 1, which is in here, we have a 1. So this is going to be the frame end index. So at one point of a time, there will be not a frame available or the delimiter available. In that case, this loop will be terminated, right? Okay, now let's save this and try to start again. And as you can see now, our MPEG stream is playing like a video, but actually what we are doing is we are changing the source of the image element based on the frame data so that it play like a video. So we successfully created this decoder with generators. Now obviously you can create this decoder without any function generators as well. So that it for this tutorial. and the source code and links for the repositories will be available in the description. So thank you for watching, and if you have any doubts, please add to the comment section. I will answer your questions.